Hi, everybody. This is Tom Byer. I just wanted to introduce Sean Rife, who will be talking to us about what scite does and about reproducibility in science. I think it will be an interesting thing, and kind of follows along in the theme of the increased emphasis on the metadata that's available through the publications. So I think that, which I think is going to be a through line in all of the talks today. But anyways, welcome, Sean. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And away you go.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. That was really interesting on the OSTP, and with respect to machine readability, you're singing my song there. We're big fans of that at scite. So hang on one second. Let me push the correct buttons here. There we go. So yeah, my name is Sean Rife, and I'm the Chief Research Officer and a co-founder of scite at scite.ai. And we started up going back to, I guess, 2018. We launched with some VC funding. We received grants from both the NSF and the NIH. We're based out of Brooklyn, but we have team members all over the world. I'm in Kentucky, so we're sort of a truly global work from home business, as you might say. What scite is attempting to do is make science more reliable, more robust, more reproducible. So if you're in this space, you've probably heard that there's a bit of a reproducibility or a replication, as some people call it, crisis. This has affected my field primarily, certainly my field, psychology, social psychology, is my PhD is in. But it's definitely occurring across science as a whole. And so you see headlines like this: half the results published in peer-reviewed scientific journals are probably wrong. That's a strong claim, but it's one that I think is probably true. Or science has a reproducibility problem. The ramifications are widespread. Again, very much agree with that. We're in a situation now where somewhere we think 80 to 90% of major preclinical studies cannot be verified by industry. Tens of billions of dollars is spent yearly on irreproducible studies. And it's pretty well accepted that there is a reproducibility crisis. About 90% of scientists are willing to admit to that. So we developed scite to help solve this problem. And in particular, we wanted to ask the question, all right, well, how do you know what other people are saying about a scientific paper? So how do you know if a scientific finding has been replicated? How do you know basically just what other scientists are saying about a given claim? And, in addition to this being a sort of timely issue, given the replications issues that we're seeing right now, there's also, I think, it speaks to the amount of scientific research that's being done. There's an astounding number of scientific papers published every year. The number that I always go to is 2.5 million. I suspect that's probably a little bit out of date by now. In my own field of psychology, there's tens of thousands of papers coming out every year. It's simply impossible to keep up with everything using some of the standard tools. This is a problem that I actually encountered when I was first a graduate student way back in 2006. So I was trying to find, what are the key components, what are the key papers on social support seeking. That was what my thesis was on. And really locating the important papers in the literature and understanding where they stood in relation to one another was a problem that I identified early on, and it just took a little while for the technology to sort of catch up. So our solution to this sort of double-barreled problem of lots of information out there and a crisis of confidence in science itself, our solution is what we call Smart Citations. So Smart Citations allow our users to see not just the number of times a paper was cited, and that's something you can get from Google Scholar, Web of Science, all sorts of services, but we allow you to see how it was cited. So both the type of citations that a paper is receiving, as well as the content of the citations themselves. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here, this is what we would call a citation context, so or a citation statement. So this is a cite to one of my papers. Researchers and commercial online services providers are increasingly conducting online services, blah, 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 blah. And you can see right there, there's Rife, Kate, Kaczynski, and Stillwell. This is the text of their paper, of a paper that references my paper. So it really readily just shows you what people are saying about that particular paper. I'll go ahead and just give you a couple of other examples just to make sure that, because sometimes this is actually kind of hard to convey, but this is an example, what we call a cite report page. So this is for a paper that's very influential in social psych. Ego depletion is the active self-deliberative resource. And you've got some metadata items that we're all kind of used to seeing. You've got the name of the journal, the year, the DOI, authors, abstract, links to full text, all that we're sort of used to seeing. But what makes cite sort of different is that the content of the report page right here, you can see we're pulling in citations to this paper. So this is not text from the paper itself. This is text from other papers that are citing this ego depletion paper. So you can actually see the text. Our findings seem to contradict a large body of research in the domain of self-control and ego depletion. And there's our citation to Baumeister et al. 1998. And we have multiple pages of this from, in this case, I think it was around 3,000 separate citations. Yeah, 3,000 publications rather. So this is what this is saying, is that there are 3,468 other papers and 3,792 statements within those papers that refer to this paper. We also do an additional thing that I think is really useful, and we'll see how this is of particular interest perhaps to societies and to professional organizations in a second. We classify citations into one of three categories. So a supporting citation is one where we're saying something like, well, we replicated the findings of Baumeister et al. Mentioning, and that's the dominant category here, is just where we're sort of referring to the paper in passing. So if you're employing the methods of Baumeister et al., or you're referencing the theory proposed by Baumeister et al., that would be a mentioning citation. And then contrasting statements. Those are statements which appear to contradict Baumeister et al., or provide evidence that maybe Baumeister et al. is not replicating. And so we have those tags throughout each citation statement. And you can see how they kind of differ. So for example, we just had one that was contrasting. Here's one that says, thus consistent with previous studies, ego depletion by itself did not cause emotional changes, Baumeister et al. Again, that's a supporting statement. And of course, we have this across all areas. I don't want to just stay in my little home of social psych and pretend that there's nothing else out there. We can see a lot of citations now to one of the initial vaccine trials for the mRNA COVID vaccine. We have some additional tools over here on the left. You can filter results by section, by the type of paper, by the type of citation, by journals. You can even visualize networks of citations, export results, all sorts of fun stuff that we really encourage folks to get in there, sign up for our trial, and give it a shot, play around with it. And of course, we welcome feedback as well. Okay, so real quick, just to sort of answer, I know the question that usually comes up is, how is this done? In short, we extract text from papers. So again, I mentioned we're big fans of machine readability. We benefit from that, but we can also process PDFs by themselves. We use basically machine learning and deep learning to both pull out text of citations and also classify them into one of those categories that we talked about. We've got a training data set of about 40,000. Actually, I think it's a little bit closer to 50,000 citation statements. And of course, we also have things that most people are already used to. In addition to providing those reports, we have a pretty robust search interface. So you can search for things like ego depletion. You can search the metadata with this papers tab right here, or you can actually search for citation statements that contain the term ego depletion or COVID-19 or whatever it is you're interested in. And then we have the ability to filter by various properties as well. So it's a pretty decent, pretty good discovery tool, all in all. Now, initially, we we started out way back in the day just using open access papers. So we used, we basically just downloaded every open access paper we could get our hands on and ingested those first. We've since built out our relationships with various publishers and organizations. We're very proud of our partnerships with these folks. This is just a sort of a snapshot of some of the people some of the groups that we deal with. At present, we have around 1.1 billion citation statements in our database, and that is across 31 million scientific papers. So we've streamlined our ingestion pipeline so that we can accept new submissions from publishers in a variety of formats and transfer protocols. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But we're very proud of our partnerships and look forward to forming more. So I'm going to talk just briefly about some of the services that we provide to publishers and professional organizations, some things that hopefully are relevant to y'all. I'm from Kentucky. I say y'all a lot. It's part of the citizenship test they make you take. So one thing that we do is we provide what we call dashboards or organizational or journal report pages. So this is a report page for the Journal of Neurosurgery, which is a PubFactory publication. And this will show you, again, some basic information about this publication, ISSNs, publishers, summaries. But what will tell you, for example, that they have over 24,000 articles that have been published. Those articles have received over 500,000 citations. They've got 6 retractions, 81 errata. And this will also show what we call the cite index. This is basically, if you think back to those categories of citations that I talked about before, the number of supporting citations divided by the number of supporting cites plus contrasting cites. So it gives you some snapshot of how sort of reproducible or replicable the findings published in this journal are. And then this is mapped out relative to subject area, and you can do it by different blocks of years. So that's useful, I think, for editors and for reviewers as well. We also provide a service that we call reference check. So reference check is sort of an automated health check of a paper that you can sort of screen a paper with. You can upload a PDF or a docx file, and it will go through that paper. It will extract the citations from that paper and parse the references list. And it will just give you a sort of summary about the references, the citations in that paper. So in this example, the publication referenced 44 papers across a total of 79 statements. And it will surface some things that we think you might want to be aware of. So for example, this is a citation in this example paper to a retracted paper that we were able to detect. And so, now there might be perfectly reasonable reasons to cite a retracted work, when you're talking about meta-science or the reason it was retracted. But we find actually that there's a surprisingly high number of papers that cite retracted works after they were retracted. So we actually have a Twitter bot that I created years ago that will kind of go through, and every once in a while it'll tweet out, hey, there's this paper that cited a retracted work after it was retracted. You might want to check into that. Happens surprisingly frequently, and it's something that our reference check service will catch. So we find this is useful to editors, again, and reviewers as well. Probably the biggest the biggest thing that people are interested in is, well, how can Cite enhance discoverability of scholarly works? We can do that by indexing with us. So our Cite reports, that page that I showed you earlier, they attract thousands of users every week. They generate a lot of traffic for our publisher partners. Basically what this involves, in order to sort of help that work be discovered, you can basically send us the documents that you have, the full text of your articles. You can deliver that content in a variety of methods. So we have FTP. If you have an API that you want us to use, we can do that. S3 buckets, other cloud-based formats. We have a pretty nimble ingestion pipeline that can deal with a lot of different protocols. And you can also supply them in those documents in various formats. So there's XML we prefer. Obviously, we like machine readability, but if you have older documents that are in PDF, we can handle those as well. So we'll accept any of those. And what often goes along with indexing and what we're really proud of is our relationships with publishers and the way that our badge has gone out there. This is something that you may have seen sort of out in the wild. So if you just have a look at this example page for the Journal of Cell Biology, under their metrics, they have our little badge that shows the number of mentioning, supporting, and contrasting citations to this paper. So we offer that as just a little badge that goes under a standard sort of metrics label for an article. There are other ways that this can be presented as well. So with Wiley for their Journal of Personality, we have this sort of larger block that says citation statements. Again, presents the same information. It's just a little bit larger. We can handle sort of either one. I think most people prefer the smaller badge, but we're happy to work with whatever you like. And again, that will just give people an additional sort of way to visualize, all right, well, what are people saying about this paper? So clicking on that will take you directly to the site report for this article. I think that pretty much covers it. If you are interested in working with us and indexing with us and maybe getting the badge on your journal articles pages or want to partner with us in any way, by all means, please reach out. You can reach me at scite on Twitter, or definitely email works is great. And I'm happy to answer any questions that folks may have about scite more broadly.
Nobody has any immediate questions. One thing I noticed in your screenshots on your site is a rent buy option. I just wondered how that works. Is that something that you set up with your partner publishers, and is it a new potential revenue stream for them?
Yeah, that's actually what we've partnered with a group called Reprints Desk Research Solutions, and they do that with us. I'd have to double check in terms of the specifics of that arrangement. I'm not sure if we have separate agreements for different publishers with that. That's an agreement that we have with them.
And then there's a question about, who subscribes to the service? What's the business model?
Yeah, so great question. We have a lot of students. We were actually kind of surprised by this. A lot of students, a lot of undergraduates as well as graduate students really like scite as a way to help write term papers. I always point that out because I'm also a university professor, so I have students who use scite. And obviously, I'm happy with that. But we also have partnerships with Cold Spring Harbor Labs, so pharmaceutical companies, laboratory labs, universities. We have institutional subscriptions. So we have sort of a combination of both individual subscriptions as well as institutions that have subscriptions to our service. So a combination of both, customers as well as business to business.
And the business model with the publishers is it simply an agreement to supply the full text to you, or what is there?
Yeah, so
you have to sign up for in addition to that.
Yeah, if you're interested, just send me an email, and we have some sort of standard templated indexing agreements that we can send you that just sort of outline the what we're going to use the text of your articles for, and how that will be presented to users and the limitations on that. And we can customize that for every organization, whatever they need. And then sort of the dual benefit there is, we get the text of your articles, and then that also helps drive traffic to your web page because it enhances the discoverability and the indexing of those papers as well.
Right. But to be clear, there's no cost.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should be. No, there's no. We don't charge. No, we don't charge publishers or societies or anyone for that service. That's something we view as mutually beneficial. Right. So our revenue comes from subscribers to the service as well as both customers and institutions. So yeah.
I think that's it for questions, but thanks so much, Sean. That was super interesting and really uh, something
Thanks,
that
Tom.
that I've been interested in for a while and would love to see used more widely.
Thanks.
Cool.